I don't know what it is about this car, but it takes so freaking long to get onto a lift. Last time, I kid you not, it took about 20 minutes. Today, it only took about 15. So it still took a long time, but I'm getting better at it. I want you guys to remember this moment right here, because today we are gonna be making history. Not only are we gonna be installing Underglow on the A90 Supra today, but this Supra is gonna be the first Supra in the entire world to be running Lowglow Underglow. This is pretty overdue, but better late than never. So let's go ahead and get this thing thrown on to the Supra. Inside the box, we got a nice little message from Patty. Always coming through with the Scooby snacks. Got the front, the side, and the rear. Here's all the wires to connect everything together, and then the main power harness. Same thing as last time, we got an instruction booklet, we got a bunch of stickers, and just pretty much everything we need to install the Underglow kit onto the car. So the last time you guys saw this, we were installing it onto the Evo, and when we were installing it onto the Evo, I told you guys that we were running the pre-run or the test run, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it, basically, we were the test dummies. We were making sure that everything works properly. At the time, it wasn't available for purchase. You couldn't really buy it because we were testing it out and making sure that everything works and all that good stuff. I know a lot of you guys wanted it before and it wasn't available, and I'm sorry for that, but now you guys can go ahead and purchase it. They're having drops every once in a while. They get sold out super fast, so if you guys want it, you guys got to make sure you stay up to date with their Instagram. I know some of you guys were upset because you guys wanted it and couldn't get your hands on it. Well, now you have a chance to get your hands on it, so good luck. This is only the second time this car has ever been up on the lift, so I'm not really used to it being up in the air like this. Now we can look underneath of the car, and we can kind of figure out exactly where we're gonna mount all the strips and everything. Mounting up the front strips should be pretty easy. We have a ton of space to mount the lights onto. My main concern is the sides and the rears. Coming to the sides right over here, I don't know, it's kind of hard to figure out exactly where we're gonna mount the LED strips. They're really not all that thick. They're actually pretty thin. We just have to mount it about 2 inches inside of the body, probably somewhere like along here. This entire underbody is just filled with undershield, so we have plenty of places to mount the LED light. I just don't want to mount it too far in, but I think that might be our only option. Coming to the rear, we still have the stock catback, so we kind of have to figure out where we're gonna mount it exactly. We'll figure that out. I see Amanda already getting worried. It's tight, isn't it? It's real tight. Besides the front bumper, there's really not much space to mount these lights. It's gonna be a little tricky, but your boy's always up for a challenge. And also, I think the Supra is gonna look so good with some Lowglow on it, so I'm excited to do this. So let's start from the front, work our way back. Basically, starting from the easiest to the hardest part. So here are the front LED strips. Let's pull these apart. So that arrow needs to point to the back of the car. So this LED strip is gonna go on this side, and it's gonna point that way. So the first LED is gonna start directly in the middle of the car, right over here. So we'll start this right here, and then kind of work our way down like so. I'm not sticking it on right now, obviously, but I'm kind of just showing how it would kind of work out. So, like that. I'm trying to figure out exactly where I would mount it. So I could either mount it onto this black piece, which I think is gonna work out, but I think mounting it onto this white piece is gonna be just a little bit better. I'm just gonna clean this up because it is really, really dirty, and then we'll stick this thing on. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Grab some alcohol and spray her down. We gotta make sure the surface is nice and clean. Okay.
Final lay down.
Front strip is now on. So the original plan was to kind of ride it along this side of the bumper, but because the factory front lip ends right over here and this really doesn't stick out at all, the problem with putting the LED lights over here is that when you're outside of the car, you're gonna see each and every single LED light, and I absolutely hate that look. So I had to put it kind of on the inside towards the plastic trim. Luckily, we don't ever plan on taking this bumper off, and even if we do, we're gonna have to just redo it. It's no big deal. We have it on the plastic trim over here. This is the only sketchy part. See right here? It's not really mounted to anything, and I don't like that at all. Hopefully it sticks. Hopefully we don't have any problems. If we do have any problems, like I said, it's just 3M tape. We'll just re-3M it. It's running along the bumper right underneath of the lip throughout the entire bumper, coming up to the middle. It passes the middle just a tad bit, but I don't think that's gonna be anything to worry about. We've done this before, and we passed the middle a little bit, and it still looked good. First strip is laid down. Gonna lay down the second side. Like I said before, the arrows are pointing towards the back. This Underglow is just a little bit different and more advanced than other Underglows in the market. This Underglow is like directional, so it looks really cool. So you gotta make sure you get the arrows right. If you don't get the arrows right, you're gonna mess it up. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, there's not a lot of things that are easier to do on jack stands. Having a lift makes everything so much easier, except for installing underglow. I'm telling you, this is so much easier to do on jack stands. The only reason why we didn't do it on jack stands is so we can kind of show you guys the whole process. If you guys have access to a lift and you guys are gonna do this to your car, save yourself the headache, just do it on jack stands. It makes it just that much easier because you don't have to deal with these massive beams in the way. Look at how much space we have in between this LED strip and this beam. There's barely any room. So to clean it, to install this, it's all just a massive pain in the butt if you're doing it on a lift. So this is one of the only things that's easier to do on jack stands rather than a lift. But the fronts are on, the sides are on. Now it's time to throw on the rears. Getting the wiring harness all powered up now. Now, usually you can connect this to the battery, just like you guys saw last time. Since the battery on the Evo was in the trunk, we connected it to the terminals in the front. Same thing with this car. I don't know if the battery's in the trunk or inside the car. I don't know how these cars work, but we have terminals right here, power and ground, nice and conveniently in the engine bay for us. This is where we're gonna get our power supply from. And then usually with the Evo, what we did is we kind of just zip tied everything together. It took up a lot of space in the engine bay and it's kind of an eyesore, I'm not gonna lie, but with this car, you have a whole, wait, here, come around. You have a whole freaking cubby. Look at this, dude. It's a whole freaking cubby of just nothing. So we don't really need all this extra wire. So we're gonna zip tie it up, kind of make it nice and tight, and everything is just gonna get tucked into that cubby. So the engine bay is still gonna stay nice and clean. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna go over how I wired everything. Now keep in mind, this is how I personally did it. You guys can do it a completely different way, and you guys are most likely gonna have to do a different way. Depending on what car you have, everything is gonna be wired a different way, so just keep that in mind. So we already showed you guys, we put the front strips right on the bumper. Here is the union connection right over here, tucked up all nicely. This is all the mounting tabs that came in our kit, so we have that going this way. We have this wire tucked up above all these little plastic shields, running up into the engine bay, into the main powering harness. You guys can see we zip tied everything, so everything is nice and tight. We have this wire above all the plastics on this car. We have it tucked going all around. It goes up a little bit across the subframe, then down the subframe on this side. It's all above the plastic shield, so I really can't show you guys the wires, but it's literally just on the other side of this, all along to right here. You guys can see the wire goes right into the plastic shield right there, and they join right somewhere there. I did the same exact thing on this side and on that side. Pretty much the same exact thing when it comes to the rear. I have it coming around here above the plastic tray, going above the subframe. Pretty much the same thing that I did on the front, I did over here. You guys can see the wire over here. We drilled our own little hole, and we have everything zip tied, so everything is nice and tight, and it's not gonna go anywhere. There wasn't really a place for me to mount this downwards where it would look good, so we kind of mounted it sideways so the light is pointing inwards. It might look a little goofy looking at it from underneath, but I think when it's on the ground, it's gonna look a lot better. When we eventually get a new exhaust for this thing, it's gonna kind of light up the exhaust, and I think that's gonna look really cool. But that is basically how we wired everything underneath. Like I told you guys, it's gonna be different for every single car, so depending on what kind of car you have, you're gonna wire it differently. For the Evo, we kind of went more into depth with it, and you guys saw how we wired that up. This car has a lot more plastic, so this car we had to take more things apart. Depending on what car you guys have, it's all gonna be a different process. This is just how we did this car.